Yes. What is your favourite alien?
Where are you? Hello. Hello. Favourite alien? I like those blue heads with the tendrils. What were they called? Oh, the Andorians. I thought Jeff Coombs, thank you. It's 5 years and a lot of pot since then. He was terrific. The melon heads, what were they? The Suliban. The Suliban? Who were those green girls? You like the green girls. The stripper green. The Orion slave girls. The Orion slave girls. That was an awful. For those poor girls, they had to be, painted green from head to toe. Yeah. You have to put the makeup on, it's bad enough, but when you actually have to have body paint put on, I realize probably half the people at this convention do it willingly, but generally speaking, it's pretty unpleasant. You sort of have to stand there, and it has to be very carefully applied. You can't move, and you can't sit down, you stick to the furniture. My head actually stuck on the floor one time. Did you lying down? Yeah, we had an episode in which we were all knocked out, and the Ferengi come on board and they try and rob the ship. So my only scene was they come on board and I'm like knocked out on the sick bay floor, and everybody leaves. It's like, wait, my head is stuck on the floor! Moving on. They're ruthless with the time and shooting. Quite ruthless. Another question.
Hi, Dominic. Do you think you'd ever be interested in playing more Doctor Who?
Yeah, absolutely. What's it pay? Oh, it's BBC money, honey. And you have to do your own standing work. It ain't for you. Wow! Yeah. Wow! I worked back in England for the first time for 14 years, about 18 months, 2 years ago. I did an episode of Holby City. Did you get that here? Did you ever get Casualty? Yeah, it was... Holby City was the BBC's answer to ER after Casualty, but with BBC money. And the good thing about it was, though, that you could drink red wine at lunchtime and no one batted an eyelid. Robert Powell, I got my lunch tray, sat down next to him, and I noticed there was a glass of red wine, and I said, okay. We have to do that in the privacy of our trailers. Yeah, I mean, in general life. He goes, oh, darling, we couldn't get through the afternoon. Here, let me get me one. So yes, I would. I'd love to. I would too. Okay. Absolutely. Now that I know you can drink, sure. I could be Doctor Who's new ready girl. Slightly flat-chested, very willing.
I was wondering, in the first couple of episodes, was it easy to be your character? Was it much to your personality, or was it already...
It was, you're right, that's a good question, huh? I've never been asked that. It takes a while. It takes a little while. On almost any TV show, I think it takes a little while because you're kind of guessing. You try and supply your own background and your own history and your own biography, but you don't really know if you're in tune with the writers, and sometimes you realize about 4 steps in, like the 3rd episode, that you're marching off in a very different direction than they want you to march. No. I would still do that quietly, just sort of like make the internal squawk all the way through. In fact, if you watch some of the episodes, you'll see a pause, that's me squawking inside. Stupid bag of shite. Yeah, there came a point definitely where I think for the first time in my sort of little acting career, I figured, if we're going to be on this show for a while, to really flesh this character out and let him be real, let a good dollop of Dominic come through Malcolm. I mean, yes, I tell you who I kind of based him on. When I was 17, I nearly joined the army in England. I was a very keen officer cadet in my school extracurriculum. I know he doesn't know, he never knew this. I nearly joined the army. The first vehicle I ever drove was a Chieftain tank. Holy cow! And I crashed it in the high street in Osnabrück in Germany. And I did it. The high street? I did. I knocked down a telegraph pole. It made the local paper. That made the front page! German Pope. Of course, round the back. Well, they're comfortable. Oh! dollop of me come through him in the end. For little effect, probably.
No, you have to. I mean, it's always going to be rooted in you, and the reason they hire you is because some aspect of your personality is shining through from the get-go. You just sort of have to kind of guess a little bit as to what they liked and maybe what they didn't like. I was afraid that the Doctor was going to be used almost exclusively for comic effect. So I was happy to see that they began to develop him and gave him a little bit more gravitas. And eventually I also got the nude scene, which they promised me early on. They promised me one in the very first season. I was at a party. One night, and I was saying, you know, everybody's been naked. Even Dominic's been naked. When are you going to get me naked? Season 3.
Am I naked?
They got, all right, I was embellishing. No, you weren't. You were never naked. But I was. In fact, I walked into a room and I suggested that I turn sharply and a flower pot go flying across the room.
And of course, for those of you who watch True Blood, you've seen a lot more of John Billingsley lately.
I had to sign a nudity waiver, which I have framed in the bathroom. Nudity waiver, really?
What is the thing they give you to put on the area?
I threw that out.
His wife pointing goes, John, it wasn't for you. It was for the people who are looking at you.
I had to do a scene in which now we're moving into a whole terrible territory here. We shouldn't go there. If you want to approach us privately and we can share some of our bluer material, we'll be outside by the tables.
Let's be on the stage, John.
Let's be on the stage.
You still know those.
Did he get taken? Shut up!
I love it. God bless him.
Wow.
Okay, well, let's not do that.
Let's not do that. All right. Next question. Any questions? Yeah? Oh, yes. Hello. I'm a total bum right now. My wife works, I sit at home, I read books. It's great.
Let me think. I just did a CSI New York, which you might get to see shortly. Very fun part. I got to play a quadruple axe murderer.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had to those bitches to death, man. And it was the first time on mainstream American telly I actually played them as an American. I went in there. I tell you what I sold them. I sold them Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. You go, some crazy bitches. And they fell for it, God bless them. I showed up on day one, and the makeup people wanted to get me straight ready. I had to do a mug shot for the, that mug shot in all of those shows.
Yeah.
This is the dude. And they cut to the shot. So before I said, listen, I really want to put a badass tattoo on my neck. And she went, oh no, well we got to get approval from the director and the producer and stuff. These guys had to come back they had to wait. And the director and the producer came into the trailer. I remember the director at the audition, he was British. And so they come in the trailer and I said, hello chaps, nice to meet you. And they both went, and I think it was the producer guy, Zachary, goes, are you British? I went, oh yeah.
Exactly, I drove a tank down behind.
Is that a deal breaker? Anyway, I got the job still, so anyway, a quadruple axe murder, so you can get to see.
He's not really a quadruple axe murderer.
I'm going to eat that baby.